If you're a man in your 30s or 40s, you've probably started feeling tired, unmotivated, or just off. You've probably wondered if your testosterone is low. Maybe you've had labs drawn, only to be told everything looks pretty normal. But here's the truth. Low testosterone isn't the cause of your symptoms, it's the effect. And most lab tests miss the reason your levels crashed in the first place. More men than ever are being told they have low T, but almost no one is asking why. We've been told this is just aging, that testosterone naturally declines 1% per year after 35. But that's not how biology works. There's a difference between natural aging and system failure. The good news, if you find the root cause, it's reversible. And that makes true optimization far more effective. Here are 5 potential contributing factors, how they function, how they could be affecting your hormone levels, and then potentially how to fix them naturally without necessarily having to utilize testosterone as a supplement. First one is chronic stress and cortisol dominance. Cortisol is your survival hormone. It's not bad, wakes you up, mobilizes energy, and helps your body handle danger. But when cortisol never shuts off, when it stays high from constant work pressure, late nights, caffeine, overtraining, and blue light, it hijacks your hormone's command center. Cortisol runs through a neighboring pathway called the HPA axis, the hypothalamus, pituitary, and adrenals. When your cortisol stays too high, your hypothalamus stops releasing gonadotropin-releasing hormone, which lowers luteinizing hormone, the signal that tells your testes to make more testosterone. So testosterone doesn't drop randomly. Your brain literally stops asking for it. Cortisol and testosterone are like a seesaw. When one goes up, the other one goes down. That's by design. When you're being chased by a tiger, your body doesn't care about reproduction or muscle growth. It cares about surviving the next 30 seconds. The modern tiger, constant notifications, poor recovery, undersleeping, overworking, your inbox, your text messages. 1 week of 5-hour night sleeps drops your testosterone by up to 15%, the hormonal equivalent of aging 10 years. That's straight from the Journal of American Medical Association. And here's the kicker. That stress also wrecks your gut lining, triggers inflammation, and sends more distress signals back to your brain. That creates a feedback loop. Stress raises cortisol, cortisol inflames the gut, inflammation raises cortisol, testosterone keeps dropping. You can't out-supplement that. You have to break the loop. So here's a practical takeaway. Cortisol dominance. You can't have high stress and have high testosterone at the same time. Your biology doesn't allow that. Start protecting your sleep and exposing your eyes to natural sunlight within the first 30 minutes of waking. That single habit anchors your circadian rhythm, lowers your cortisol later in the day, and supports natural testosterone production. Keep caffeine out of the first hour. Move a little before checking your phone, and give your body at least one recovery practice daily. Deep breathing, a walk, or just quiet time. Lower the threat signal and your body stops choosing survival over performance. The next thing we're gonna talk about is inflammation and gut dysfunction. Over 70% of your immune system lives in your gut. When that system gets inflamed from processed foods, alcohol, antibiotics, or just chronic stress, it leaks toxins called LPS into your bloodstream. Research in Frontiers Immunology shows that chronic LPS exposure can suppress testosterone by increasing inflammation cytokines like the IL-6 and the TNF-alpha, the same cytokines that interfere with brain to testes signaling. Your immune system reads those as invaders, fires up inflammation. That inflammation tells your brain you're under attack and we do not need to prioritize growth, recovery, or reproduction right now. Your body responds by turning down reproductive hormones, including testosterone. That same inflammation hits your liver. Clear and package hormones you're done with, especially estrogen. When the liver is overloaded, it can't clear efficiently. So estrogen that should have been eliminated gets recycled back into your system. More circulating estrogen equals less available testosterone. Add one more layer most guys never hear about: mitochondrial stress. A 2023 review in Cell Metabolism showed that chronic inflammation causes oxidative damage inside the mitochondria. This is the tiny engines in your cells that make energy. When those mitochondria slow down, ATP production stops and hormone synthesis completely suffers. So you're exhausted, moody, and probably soft around the midsection. And it's not because you're getting older. It's cell level energy collapse driven by, again, inflammation. And then there's absorption when the gut lining is irritated. The intestinal villi the little finger-like structures that absorb nutrients within the gut, start flattening. Low stomach acid, low bile flow, chronic inflammation. Now you're not actually absorbing the zinc, magnesium, B vitamins, or healthy fats. Those are literally raw materials for hormone production. So, even if you're eating clean, your cells are still underfed. It gets worse. Inflammatory cytokines, things like IL-6 and TNF-alpha, don't just float around. They physically damage Leydig cells in your testes. The Endocrine Review's 2023 confirms this link. So at that point, it's not just low signal from the brain, it's the factory is actually getting hurt. So this is why gut dysfunction silently pulls testosterone down. This is how it would feel day to day. And here's the part nobody really tells you about. You might never feel that gut pain. Instead, it shows up like this. Afternoon fatigue that caffeine really can't fix, brain fog, joint stiffness, low motivation, unexplained fat gain around the midsection. Those aren't just stress-related symptoms. Those are inflammatory byproducts of gut-driven hormone imbalance. Your body is literally reallocating energy toward defense instead of output. Here's how to reverse that pattern. The good news is the gut can change fast. 3 to 6 weeks of the right plan can start dropping inflammation markers and restoring hormone signaling. Step 1, identify the source with actual data stool testing, microbiome mapping, inflammatory markers. Step 2, pull out triggers, processed seed oils, excessive alcohol, constant sugar hits. Step 3 would be rebuild the gut lining amino acids like glutamine, zinc, carnosine, targeted probiotics depending on your labs, and then real fiber. Step 4, support the liver so it can actually clear used hormones. You can use things like cruciferous vegetables, hydration, daily movement, and sweating. When that gut calms, oxidative stress drops, mitochondria recover, and your brain stops reading you as under attack. That's when it gives the green light back to the testosterone. So here's some practical takeaways for inflammation in gut. If your gut's inflamed, your hormones are inflamed. Start simple. Remove processed oils and excessive alcohol. Add color from real foods and aim for 1 serving of fermented food or fiber-rich vegetables with each meal. Within a few weeks, inflammation will probably drop and your testosterone axis often wakes up with it. The third thing that we're going to talk about is metabolic dysfunction and insulin resistance. Testosterone is as much a metabolic signal as it is a sex hormone. Insulin's job is to move glucose from your bloodstream into your cells for energy. But when you live on constant snacks, high stress, and poor sleep, your cells kind of stop listening. That's insulin resistance. A 2022 paper in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism showed that men with prediabetes have roughly 25% lower testosterone than metabolically healthy men. Insulin resistance floods the body with inflammation, which we already know what that does. Spikes blood sugar and then lowers sex hormone binding globulin. This is a protein that carries testosterone through your bloodstream. That might sound good, more free testosterone, right? So by lowering your sex hormone binding globulin, this makes levels unstable. They spike, they crash, becoming unpredictable. Meanwhile, chronically high insulin damages Leydig cells, once again, through oxidative stress. As insulin resistance worsens, fat accumulates around the belly. That visceral fat is metabolically active. It converts testosterone into estrogen through aromatase, which is an enzyme. More fat means more estrogen, which means less testosterone. That's the hormonal downward spiral of modern life. What is the fix? Stabilize blood sugar, walk after meals, strength training, sleep 7 to 9 hours a night. When insulin sensitivity improves, testosterone often rebounds within weeks. So what is the practical takeaway of this? Stable blood sugar equals stable hormones. Eat protein first, walk 10 minutes after meals, and cut late night snacking. Those 3 simple habits improve insulin sensitivity and can raise testosterone naturally without touching a prescription. The fourth thing that we're going to talk about is micronutrient and metabolite depletion. Hormones are built, not conjured. Testosterone starts with cholesterol, but each conversion step needs specific nutrients and metabolites to fire. Zinc powers the enzyme that converts androstenedione to testosterone. Magnesium drives ATP, which is the energy currency every cell uses. B6, B12, and folate fuel methylation, the detox process that balances estrogen and testosterone. Vitamin D acts like a hormone itself, signaling the testes to make more testosterone. Studies in nutrients in a 2003 studies in nutrients and the Journal of Steroid Biochemistry and Molecular Biology both show that low zinc and vitamin D correlate strongly with low total and free testosterone. Then there are metabolites, the chemical fingerprints of how your metabolism's running. If your alpha ketoglutarate or SAMe levels are low, your mitochondria can't produce enough energy or methylation power to hormone synthesis. And here's the kicker. Even guys who eat well are depleted. Stress, inflammation, alcohol, and poor gut health burn through nutrients faster than you can replace them. You're not necessarily underfed, you're underabsorbed. When you fix absorption and restore nutrient reserves, your body remembers how to perform. What is the practical takeaway of micronutrients and metabolites' effect on testosterone? You can't bind hormones out of thin air. Before chasing boosters, run a micronutrient panel and fix what's missing. Zinc, magnesium, vitamin D, and B vitamins are non-negotiables. When the building blocks are there, testosterone production takes care of itself. The fifth thing we're going to talk about is environmental disruptors. Testosterone levels have dropped nearly 40% in the last 4 decades, and our DNA didn't change that fast. So what did? The world around us, mostly. We're surrounded by endocrine disruptors, chemicals that mimic or block hormones. BPA and phthalates from plastics, parabens, and fragrances from personal care products, pesticides on foods, flame retardants in furniture, and PFAS, the forever chemicals in cookware and water. They act like fake estrogens attached to hormone receptors and trick the brain into thinking it has enough hormones. That feedback shuts down natural production. Some of these chemicals raise sex hormone binding globulin and trap testosterone. Others directly damage Leydig cells. Research from environmental health perspectives in 2024 found that PFAS exposure alone was linked to low total and free testosterone in adult males. Another meta-analysis in Human Reproduction Update in 2022 found that global sperm counts dropped over 50% since 1973, tracking perfectly with industrial chemical exposure timelines. You can't eliminate exposure completely though, but what you can do is reduce it. Switch to glass or stainless steel. Use unscented products. Eat fewer packaged foods. Filter your water. Small choices truly matter. Every reduction lowers your body's toxic load. So, what is the practical takeaway of the effect on environmental disruptors on your testosterone? You don't need to live in a bubble. Just lower the load. Drink from glass. Skip synthetic fragrances. And filter your water. Small swaps done daily. Compound fast. And your endocrine system feels that relief. So why do so many men get told you're fine? It's really because medicine measures normal, not optimal. Most providers are only looking at a single hormone marker, typically total testosterone. They aren't looking at the gut. They aren't checking for micronutrient deficiencies. And they're not even remotely analyzing metabolites, which are the chemical fingerprints that show how your cells are actually performing. There are dozens of contributing factors to low testosterone that standard testing completely overlooks. Inflammation, oxidative stress, insulin resistance, nutrient depletion, environmental disruptors. So, when you walk out with a sheet that says normal, or some provider telling you that it's normal, it's not the lab that's wrong. It's the lens. It's that the lens is too small. At Elixium, we do this a little different. We are saying we're going to require you. We're not saying that we're going to require you to spend $800 on testing. What we are going to do is dig as deep as we can within your individual budget, taking into account your history, your current lifestyle, and serum markers that we're already testing that may suggest where additional testing could uncover the real cause. Right now, we're also exploring metabolite testing in more depth to determine whether it should realistically be a starting point for many patients. The research points toward metabolite analysis, providing a far more complete picture, showing not just what a marker is doing, but how that marker functions inside the entire metabolic network. Because when you understand how these inner systems talk to each other, the gut, the liver, the mitochondria, the nutrients, the stress axis, you stop chasing isolated numbers and start understanding why testosterone fell in the first place. And that's where lasting optimization really begins. Optimizing testosterone isn't about avoiding therapy. It's about building the foundation first. For some men, that means their body rebounds naturally once inflammation, sleep, and metabolism are addressed. For others, strategic testosterone optimization, whether through peptides, hormone replacement therapy, or compounded therapies, can be the next step that amplifies those results. But when the system underneath is broken, any therapy you add becomes a patch instead of an actual solution. That's why our approach is data-driven. We start by understanding your baseline through comprehensive labs that map your metabolism, inflammation, nutrient status, gut health, and hormone feedback loops. Then we rebuild from the inside out, calm the nervous system a bit, and restore deep sleep, and heal gut inflammation, replenish key nutrients, stabilize blood sugar and insulin response, try to eliminate as many environmental disruptors as possible. Once those systems are stable, that's when testosterone optimization becomes powerful, because your body can actually use it the way it's meant to. This isn't anti-TRT or anti-optimization, it's pro-foundation, because if you build on a weak base, everything eventually cracks underneath. When we optimize the system first, therapies become enhancement and not dependence. So before you chase a prescription or another booster, ask a better question. Why did my testosterone drop in the first place? You can't fix what you don't understand, and you can't optimize what you don't measure. If you're ready to see what your labs are actually telling you about your energy, your performance, and your longevity, start with the right data. That's why we built Elixium's Core Check Plus and our Gut Check Plus panels, to show you the whole picture, not just a number. Because health should be personal, meaningful, and lasting, not dictated, dismissed, or masked.